Hi, everybody. Are you looking for some free science fiction and fantasy books to warm you up this cold winter weekend? We have them because every Friday here at MetaStellar, we read the first few chapters of each of the top 5 free fantasy and sci-fi books on Amazon. They have a bestseller list just of free sci-fi and fantasy books. The link to that list is in the description box below, too, so you can check it anytime. Now, today we have some visions of the dystopian future, a sexy romantic fantasy, magic-wielding detectives, a box set of those detectives, lots of great stuff. Before we get into that, hi everybody, welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV. I'm the editor here at MetaStellar. Today, several people helped out with the reviews. Tim McHugh, E.S. Foster, and Emma's here with us today.
Hi.
Hi, Emma. Also, we had a new person today, Luciana Aliotto, who loves romantasy. Yay! So she's new to our team. She can't be here today, but she says she might be able to make it for next week's taping. So you actually get to see her in person. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of these videos. And now, let's get into the books. Starting with book number 5, and we're going to count down to book number 1. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys. So this is Justina, Daughter of Spartacus by Ryan Liu. It's the first of 7 books in the Justina saga, a historical fiction series that, based on the description of this book and all the other books, and based on the reviews that we wrote, doesn't seem to have any sci-fi or fantasy elements. It seems to be like just historic, set in the Roman period. But it's, we'll only do the first look. Maybe something happens later on. I don't think so, but who knows? The other books in the series are 99 cents each, and they're all in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited is where you pay 12 bucks a month and you read all the books you want as long as they're in Kindle Unlimited and on Amazon, obviously. So if you read more than 3 or 4 books a month, it's a really good deal. I have a Kindle Unlimited subscription because I read a lot of books. And I tend to prefer books that are on Kindle Unlimited because I don't have to pay extra for them, but the author still gets paid. So good deal. Again, if you don't mind being part of the Amazon hegemony. All right, let's get into the book. Luciana Aliotto read this for us, and she says that she loves reading stories set in the classical era, and ancient Greece and the Roman Empire have always fascinated her. So she was really attracted to this book. And the book opens with the escape of a group of slaves, Marona, her husband, and an elderly married couple. And they kill their masters in their sleep and escape. And Luciana says if you're not a fan of detailed and gory descriptions, you might want to skip this book. So everything goes to plan, and the 4 slaves with their blood-stained tunics head towards the aqueducts that will take them to their freedom. But before they finally escape, the son of the murdered masters gave the alarm, and the slaves were found the following morning. Marona's husband was killed. The rest of them are arrested, and they're going to be taken before the Caesar himself. Then the story shifts to Justina, our titular character, and we see her in a sparring session with one of her brothers, who's witty but not particularly skilled in the arts of the gladius. And we follow the fight from the point of view of Antonia, one of the slaves who lives there. And we get quite a bit more backstory and about the relationship between Antonia and Justina. They grew up together, even though one of them's a slave and the other one's the daughter of the master, and Justina being the daughter of the master. After Justina defeats her brother in the fight, the mistress of the house tells everyone the news about the tragic deaths, murder of people that they know by none other than the hands of their own slaves. And then we meet Gaius Julius Caesar himself. We hear his eternal monologue. He basks in the attention and flattery of his guests, and there's a feast that is interrupted by the guy who led the capture of the murdering slaves from the first scene, who brings the 3 slaves to Caesar. Caesar was expecting 4, and he's a little unhappy that one of the slaves was killed. And the scene quickly turns very intense as he disembowels Morona in the middle of the hall for everyone to see. So Luciana says she won't be sticking with this book. It's an interesting premise and characters, but the writing style didn't do it for her. And it was very action-focused and fast-paced, which she saw a lot of the other reviewers liked. But she would have preferred to see more description and world building. And she also found the action scenes to be a little hard to follow. We also had Tim McHugh read the beginning of this book for us, thanks to some scheduling issues. And so again, he talks about the same beginning that Luciana did, but he says that he didn't find anything to complain about. He says it was great. He says the pacing is fast, but there are plenty of details. The subject matter is gritty. The writing is eloquent. And the setup suggests that the plot is heading for complex political intrigue, which is something he can't get enough of. So he's going to continue reading this one and recommends it to others. All right. Next, we have book number 4 on today's list. Here you go. The Hybrid by E.K. Francis. This is the first of 5 books in the Hybrid series. And we're whiplashing from way in the past to way in the future, because this is a dystopian science fiction. The other books in the series are $3 to $4 each, but they are all in Kindle Unlimited. The author has been on our Free Friday list before, and Emma read this for us. So, Emma, what did you think of this book?
When I started reading this, I immediately thought of the Divergent series. So it's kind of a little skeptical going in, and not to say because the series like Divergent is bad. It gave me the vibes of like all of the dystopian YA that came out like 2012 to 2015, it felt like, and it was like all over the place. So it was like I didn't really know what I was gonna get into when I started reading this. So this world, there are people with special abilities and they're called alphas, and these abilities range from all types of things, from like flying, being able to summon lightning, to necromancy, and all sorts of things. So in every kid's 13th birthday, they are brought to this ceremony and they're sorted into different groups. So like I said, with the Divergent series, that's what it sounds like. There's like 4 different groups. And the story centers on Sebastian. He lives in this abusive home, so like there's this detail that he sleeps in like this crate. He doesn't even get a blanket. And he hears these strange steps outside and he wonders if it's an alpha of some kind, like maybe someone coming to attack him. And someone who sounds like his father, which I don't think it's actually him, tells him that he has a big day tomorrow and that he should go to bed. So he does. It's then that we get some backstory. Turns out that Sebastian's brother died. It was kind of his fault. He's like he drowned or something like that. And his father just sort of went insane from it. He burned everything that the brother owned. They moved into a new house, and Sebastian has never stepped outside since. He just lives in the stone room and he's basically starving. And it looks like the mom isn't in the picture either. So everything is really depressing. So he and his dad go outside for the ceremony. And this is the first time that Sebastian's been outside in literal years. And they pass by humans. They are not meant to become alphas. They're just regular people. And they reach this part of town where plenty of the alphas live. It's sort of like this section that's away on the outskirts. And there they reach the academy. This is where Sebastian's going to be placed in one of the 4 groups. And this is kind of like where he's going to be studying. His dad wants him to be what's called a necro, which I think is like some kind of necromancer type thing. But Sebastian really wants to be a healer. He feels really guilty about his brother's death. He really wants to heal other people's to make amends for that. But his dad says that if he's not placed in the group for necromancers, he'll be thrown back into the basement forever. So at this point, I stopped reading because I was so monumentally depressed. I was so sad about what was happening. I couldn't get a feel for like any of the characters. It just felt like everything was being thrown at Sebastian for dramatic effect. like had all these details about how he like was skinny, how he was starving, how he like went outside one time and then his dad got mad, so they threw him back into the basement and locked him in there for 5 days. And I was like, this is the most awful thing to happen to a fictional character that I've ever seen. So I didn't want to continue for that reason. I just like this is making me sad. I need to go read something lighthearted, so I'm personally not going to continue with it.
I do not blame you.
I was like, what? This is so sad. Why would you keep doing this to this poor boy? He's just a kid.
But hey, some people like that.
I know.
Maybe it
Okay.
builds engagement with a character and you care more about what happens to him next. Or maybe some people just like watching people suffer.
I know.
The Saw movies are super popular.
I know. I can never watch the Saw
What?
movies. Just
Yeah, same
never.
here. All right, so if you want something completely different from that, let's go on to the next book, which is all pink, as you can see, because it's a romance. It's a sexy romance. So this is Chosen by the Princess by Sadie Waters, the first of three books in the Realm of the Chosen, a romantic fantasy series. The other books are $3 and $4 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. This is the author's first time on our list. I read the beginning of this one. Not by choice, because somebody else was going to read it, but then they couldn't, and I read it. So anyway, this is a reverse harem romantasy, which means that the female protagonist doesn't have to choose between the sexy men. She can have all the sexy men. And um, and apparently the book gets pretty sexy. Um, so the protagonist is Katrinetta, and she's a princess who's about to turn 18. She's pretty anxious about it. So she's hiding out in the palace garden. And then the commander of the guard, the sexy commander of the guard, comes and sits down on the bench next to her, and she breathes in his scent. And he always makes her smile. Also, he's known her since she was a toddler, and they say that he was already a captain by the time she turned 15, so I'm guessing he's a bit older than she is. So I have a problem with the reverse harem trope because it just sounds so complicated. I have a problem with age differences and power imbalances. So I'm going to be like all problematic in this book. That's not to say those are bad tropes. Like, I love books where the protagonist is a spy and just like kills people right and left. I'd hate to see that in real life. I love reading about it. So I'm not going to judge that somebody else prefers love and romance to murder and mayhem. But just keep that in mind that if you do prefer murder and mayhem, this book might not be for you. And if you prefer murder and mayhem, leave a knife in the comments below, a little knife emoji so that we know. Okay, so Katrina is worried about a few things. First of all, there's going to be a ceremony when she turns 18, and the royal doctor will have to confirm that she's still a virgin. And then she's going to have a choosing ceremony, so she's going to be paired up with somebody. But before then, she'll have a period of exploration where I assume she'll be dating multiple guys. Then in the next chapter, something unexpected happens. We learn that the royal physician is too old to do his part of the ceremony. Apparently, the virginity test isn't just a physical exam, like, he looks over there or something. It requires actual intercourse. And the doctor's too old to do it. So instead of having whoever's supposed to be the doctor's successor do the deed, the queen decides to randomly pick a guard to do it. And they'll cover the guard's face so Katrina won't know who he is and won't get emotionally attached too early. And after all, this is supposed to be just a medical procedure. So this entire plot seems to revolve around Katrinetta's sexual awakening and exploration. So I'm going to skip this book. But if you're interested in a very sexy story, graphically sexy story, set in a cozy kingdom where women order the men around, and okay, when I put it that way, it does start to sound pretty appealing. Anyway, it's free. Pick it up. Okay, so next we have another book that's again completely different from this, and it is Arc by Devon C. Ford, which is pretty much the opposite of the previous book. Arc is the first of three books in the New Earth apocalyptic sci-fi series. The other books are $4 each, but they're both in Kindle Unlimited. The author has been on our Free Friday list before with other books, and I read this one because I love hard sci-fi. But this is dystopian sci-fi, which I don't like as much because I want my escapist reading to actually be escapist. You know, far off space battles, cozy fantasy coffee shops, kick-ass women stabbing vampires to death, that kind of thing. And second, this book is set in the near future, and the problem with setting any book in the near future is that the technology quickly becomes obsolete. And that always annoys me because of my day job, I write about technology. So I get too caught up in the details when I read this. So keep those things in mind when you hear my review. I've got a little chip on my shoulder here. So the book opens in 2033 in a space station in orbit around the Earth. Dr. David Anderson has been up there for 18 months. This used to be the International Space Station, and now it's called the Ark. So I guess this ISS wasn't decommissioned after all. And in 19 hours, there's going to be an impact of some kind, the station's AI tells David. And we also learned that this Ark is full of cryogenically frozen humans, and it's soon going to be the doctor's turn to go under, and he expects to be frozen for 100 years. Then the book jumps back in time to 2021, and we learned about Amir, a billionaire who splits his time between the US and India. His company makes self-driving cars and a bunch of military equipment. And after he took over as head of the company when his father died, Amir began to put company resources towards commercial space travel, and he bought up the ISS and the Hubble telescope. And I guess he's kind of an Elon Musk kind of figure. Then in 2021, his company discovers an asteroid coming at the Earth that will hit in 12 years, and Amir decides to keep the knowledge a secret, and because he's so rich and so powerful, he can do it. And so now we get to the heart of the story. So David Anderson, we met him before, is a computer prodigy who invents an AI with nearly human-level reasoning abilities. And the billionaire, Amir, brings David and his AI project to Texas, and he also rounds up a bunch of other big shot scientists, makes them all sign a non-disclosure agreement, and tells them about the asteroid. Then we learned more about this AI that David built. It's an expert system. So it's like it's like, how do you tell between a dog and a chicken? Well, a dog has 4 legs and a chicken has 2. So the expert system will say, well, how many legs does it have? And that's how it tells. So expert systems are an old-fashioned way of doing AI. They're extremely clumsy because then what if the dog has 2 legs amputated? Like, great. So you have to have a lot of nuances, a lot of questions, a lot of subject matter expertise to build these. They're very inflexible. When things change, you have to rebuild the entire system. They take a lot of time and effort to build. Big corporations used to have them. They've been replaced by machine learning, neural networks, and lately by generative AI. So this is a really old, obsolete technology. Which is like what I mean. You know, I get too caught up in the obsolete technology of these novels. So anyway, we're back to Amir. He's preparing his company to save humanity. And David continues working on his AI. So Amir is putting stuff into space, and he's also building giant underground bunkers. And he's saving like people, animals, and plants by cryogenically freezing them. And he plans to restore them after the disaster is over. And I don't like the fact that he's keeping it all a secret. The idea is to prevent panic, but you know, if you had a lot more people working on the project, we might come up with some better solutions, right? Like pushing the asteroid out of the way or something. I mean, it's a lot of resources that's being put towards this project. So anyway, so David is working alone on his AI. He doesn't have the patience to explain what he's doing to anyone, so he doesn't even have any assistants. So this is a massive expert system that he's building that's supposed to do everything, and he's building it by himself. All right. And then the AI starts giving him answers that he didn't program in. And that's something that happens with neural nets and generative AI, but it doesn't happen with expert systems because they're kind of hard coded. So this like puzzles David, why is this happening? So apparently the AI has gotten so smart that it's starting to rewrite its own code. Again, something that generative AI can do, but not old expert systems. But anyway, so meanwhile, Amir is manipulating governments, recruiting scientists and experts of all kinds, and if they don't want to come, he kidnaps them, right? So there's a building sense of dread of the oncoming disaster. And Amir is really ruthless about the way that he's going to save everybody, and his way is the only way, and he's just forcing everybody to do his bidding. It's hitting a little close to home. But there are people who love reading these books, and I have to say that the book is pretty readable and it moves at a very fast pace. And it's definitely a vision of the future that could easily happen. So if you don't get too caught up in the technical details, I think you might really enjoy it. And so before we go on to book number 1 in today's list, I want to thank our Patreon supporters, including Christopher Luby, who just joined our supporters. And all the money that's donated through Patreon goes to pay for original fiction on our website. We publish short stories, both original and reprints, and we pay 8 cents a word for original short stories, thanks to our contributors and channel members. All of us editors are volunteers, including Emma and me. So all the money, 100% of it, goes to authors. So it's a good cause if you want to support new and emerging science fiction and fantasy authors. So we love you guys. We would not be here without you. Thank you so much. The stories also go into the Best of the Year anthology. We have 3 anthologies already out. We're working on our 4th one, and Emma is spearheading the 4th anthology project. Thank you, Emma. And I hope you guys can hear me okay, because I just got an unstable internet error message.
You cut out for a bit, but
I cut
we
out.
got you back.
I was thanking Emma for her work on Year 4 anthology, if you missed that.
Yes, we got that part.
We also published novels. Our first novel is out. We serialized it last year, and now the print version is available and the ebook version as well. All the links in the description box below. This year we are serializing and publishing 2 novels. So we're like totally stoked about this. And also, I want to mention that Emma is a book coach and editor if you need somebody to help you with your writing. And me, in addition to being a technology journalist during the day, I'm a science fiction author, and I have books up on Amazon, and those 3 should be on the free science fiction bestseller list as well. So yay, so pick them up. And let's go on to book number 1 on today's list, which is actually my favorite of the lot today, and that's the one I am going to be reading after I finish my work for the day. And it is The Inquisitors Guild by, oh, I just lost the page. Inquisitors Guild by Dave Dobson. It's a box set of 3 books in the 4-book Inquisitors Guild humorous fantasy series. The other books are $2 to $4 each, and most of them are Kindle Unlimited. For some reason, the 3rd book in the series is neither in this box set nor in Kindle Unlimited. And I don't understand why. The author has been on our Free Friday list before, and Emma read this for us. Emma, what do you think about it?
I haven't read too much humorous fantasy. I was thinking like this is something Maria definitely would be interested in, so I was excited to dive in. And this story begins with Detective Martin. It's from his point of view, and his partner Boog. Okay, so they both work together for the Inquisitors Guild, the title of the book series, and It's sort of like this task force that fights crimes and solve cases in this like fantasy landscape. So I'm assuming there's a whole lot of fantasy world building that'll eventually happen. But right now we get into the action. So Martin and Boog are hiding out in this tavern and their target walks in. He's this jewel thief because they're tasked with retrieving this amulet that he has on his person. And they wait, they're talking to each other in code. They deduce this is the man they're looking for, and then suddenly a woman steps into the tavern and she begins talking with the thief. So it's clear that she is interested in the jewel that the thief stole. So Martin and Boog have been tasked with apprehending this thief and retrieving this jewel, and they step in before the woman can take it. That's when the woman engages in this fight with them. She uses this arcane magic to try to disarm them, and the thief uses his sword because that's all the defense he has. And luckily, Martin has this magical wand of sorts that helps fight her off. So the woman escapes. She uses the magic, like the magic that she has on the jewel, and it briefly comes to life. So during the fight, the thief tries to escape, and then he gets like back into the back kitchen, and halfway out, he suddenly explodes, and it just leaves the jewel behind. So there's this explosion. Everyone gets covered with stew because he happens to be next to a pile of stew, and I thought that part was hilarious. So the two detectives, they meet with their supervisor. They try to unravel why and how the thief randomly exploded. It's clear that there's somebody bigger afoot and that they're going to have a bigger case to solve. So I really like where this is going, and the humor did kind of remind me of Terry Pratchett, like the writing style and everything. So I think like Maria, I might stick with this one as like a good introduction to more humorous fantasy, and especially with like this being the first book, it feels like a good place to get started.
All right, thanks. So I've already downloaded it to my Kindle. Let us know in the comments if you plan to read any of these books. Leave a heart or a dagger to show us whether you like the touchy-feely romancy things or the stabby things. And let us know if you plan to read any of these books or if you've already read them, what you thought of them. Thank you, Emma, for joining me today. And for those of you who don't want to leave this channel just yet, we have serialized Gods and Monsters, and it is available in video form. The author actually reads the installments on our channel, and you can get an interview with her and the first installment read to you. So check those out and subscribe to the newsletter if you don't want to miss anything. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Stay warm. Bye bye.
Bye.